Hello, beautiful. Today I am joined by the first male guest who is not my husband, and I'm so excited to introduce you to him. Michael Ulloa is a personal trainer and nutrition coach, co host of the podcast How to Fitness, a father, a husband, and he's making such a huge impact helping all humans have a healthier relationship with food, body, and exercise. His content, so valuable, but also so freaking funny. So if you're not following him yet, you definitely should be. I am so excited for our conversation today. Welcome, Michael, to Your Body Is Not the Problem podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. What an intro. I appreciate it. Any chance I get to speak on these topics that I'm incredibly passionate about, I always jump at it. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
Of course, very excited to start. Can you tell us a bit more about you, please, and your body image journey?
Sure. So, that's a nice broad question, isn't it? So I started off as a personal trainer now around, I think it's like coming up to 10 years ago. I've been a personal trainer now. So I've been one for quite a while. When I first started in the industry, I would say that I was a bit more kind of bro, took a bit more of a bro approach, kind of typical personal training approach. Very weight loss centric as well, I'd probably say, just because that's kind of what your personal training courses teach you, and I thought was the right way at the time. So I was very much strength training, don't do too much cardio because I'll lose my gains. And it was very image focused. And then I wouldn't say there's just been like one moment in time where I've switched to kind of the approach that I have now. It's just been a really slow evolution of trying to be really evidence-based, working with some brilliant clients that have been very honest with me about my content and the way that I'm working. Um, Speaking to amazing people that I meet through social media like yourself, and just kind of slowly finding my feet with, okay, maybe this approach isn't working for the people that I'm actually wanting to help, and maybe there's a better way to do things. And I've just refined my approach throughout the time that I've been working as a personal trainer. And yeah, now it's, as I said, it's just been a real slow evolution, and I now feel like I'm genuinely making an impact and helping people to improve their relationship with food and exercise and their bodies. And I would say that I would relate to that as well. When I was striving for just building muscle, not losing my gains by doing too much cardio and this, and I was never happy. Like, you're never happy chasing that goal. And now that I've kind of taken a bit of a step back, I've got a bit more of a relaxed approach to exercise and to food. I just feel in such a better place. And as you mentioned in the intro, I'm now a dad as well, and I want to create a better fitness industry and world for my son to grow up in, so he doesn't have to go through what I did. That's a very kind of quick snapshot of my journey to where I am now.
I love that. I think it's so cool that you've just, as you've been learning more, you've been changing your process and how you see
Mhm,
things. So I think that's really beautiful. And you mentioned being kind of like image obsessed, which is what the fitness industry for most of
mhm,
it is. And I guess I do want to put in a disclaimer that while there are lots of less positive sides to the fitness industry, there are also lots of positive sides to it too.
mhm.
But what downsides have you seen from the fitness industry being more image obsessed and focused?
I mean, there's so many downsides. I speak about this a lot in my content, where the fitness industry, unfortunately, it thrives on people being unhappy with their bodies and not looking the way that we're told we're supposed to look. And we're kind of sold that this is what a healthy and fit body is supposed to look like. And you should put all of your effort into trying to achieve that, and that will bring you happiness, and that will bring you health and performance and everything. And it's just not true. We're striving to look like these images that are usually performance enhancing drugs have been used to achieve them. Photoshop has been used, and it's just so unachievable that we're constantly made to feel like crap because we can never achieve this image that we're told is going to make us feel better, and it's just not. So yeah, the downsides are just absolutely huge. And the amount of people that I work with now who have previous disordered eating habits or eating disorders, have really poor body image, have a really unhealthy relationship with exercise, is scarily common. It's very rare now that I work with a client who doesn't have some sort of disordered behaviors in the past because of just what we're sold when it comes to health and fitness. And it's just really sad to see.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying that when you were doing all the things that the fitness industry originally was telling you to do, you weren't happy. But then we
Mhm.
see those images online and we're thinking, oh, they must be so happy though, because look at their body. And it's like,
It's so true.
no,
I
it doesn't.
remember on my phone having images of people's bodies from Men's Health magazine that I used to be like, right, this is what I want to look like. Right. If I just lift weights consistently for a few years, this is what I'm going to look like. And I look back now and it's wild because I was just never ever going to look like those people in the magazines. Like the people that I was idolizing, clearly now looking back were taking steroids. So naturally I would never have been able to achieve it. And this is why so many people do go down the steroid route, because they think, right, I'm doing everything I can. I'm still not looking like that image. What can I do to achieve it quicker? And it's just a really vicious cycle. And it's, yeah, as I said, you're just never going to win taking that approach.
You also mentioned in one of your Instagram reels that you made the shift away from posting progress photos and like before and afters. Is that kind of in the same realm of trying to move away from the image obsessed?
It is. There's too much noise in the fitness industry when it comes to weight loss in general, actually. I work with some clients, full disclaimer, that do have weight loss as a goal. I don't turn people away because that's something that they want to focus on. I will just always tell my clients that that can be a goal, but it's not going to be the emphasis. And that's what I always like to portray through my social media content as well. And I have some clients who like doing before and after photos, and I tell them, like, if that's something that you want to do and makes you happy, awesome, but I'm not going to promote that on my social media. And I think that we need to get more personal trainers shifting away from creating that kind of content, because off the bat, it just sparks the comparison culture of kind of like, this is what I need to look like. This is what healthy is supposed to look like. And it's not. So that's why I haven't now for years posted a before and after photo on my social media, just because I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it proves that a coach knows what they're talking about. I could shove any of my clients on a really like starvation diet, put them doing loads of cardio, and they would drop body fat. Does that mean that they've improved their health or their relationship with food or their relationship with exercise? They just haven't. So that's why yeah, I thought let's step away from it and actually focus on the things that really matter, like improving people's relationship with everything that I mentioned.
And they definitely would not be happy on that crazy diet if you put them on it.
Yeah, it's funny. I like my clients see the content I create, and I always get text messages of like, "Thank you so much for not making me do before and after photos, and thank you so much for not posting them on social media as well, because I couldn't think of anything worse." But it's just the norm. Like, I think this is what people think personal training should be. It should be someone who's going to come along and kind of bully you and make you work really hard to lose body fat, and that's it. And I always like it when people start working with me and they're surprised with how laid back I am and how laid back you can be when approaching fitness and nutrition. Like, it should be a really fun and enjoyable process. Of course, there's days that you're going to want to work hard and challenge your body because that's enjoyable in itself, but it shouldn't be this brutal, horrible process that makes you think, what the hell am I doing? You know, it should be fun.
I completely agree. That was one of the biggest shifts that I have made in my fitness and health journey is like everything I want to do, I want to make it fun. And challenging stuff can be fun. And it's like just whenever I'm going to move my body, how can I make it more fun in general?
Mhm.
But many of us are made to feel like our body is the problem thanks to the advertising of the fitness industry. If you were in that mindset, how did you get yourself out of it?
As I said, it's just been a really slow progression. And I will admit, sometimes I'll still fall down the rabbit hole of comparing myself. I'll see someone post their Strava times, and I'll be like, oh, I wish I could run that fast, or I wish my swimming was that good, you know? And I've just tried to kind of curate my social media feed and the people that I speak to regularly. I've got a really good network of practitioners, professionals that have a similar approach to me, and we kind of bounce ideas off each other. And there's people I can text when I feel like things aren't quite going well. And it's just kind of creating that network of people and things that really motivate you. It always makes me laugh when people will come to me and be like, oh, this fitness influencer has said this. What do you think? And I just have no idea who these people are. Like, I am completely out of the fitness realm when it comes to social media. I don't follow many personal trainers. I don't like seeing their content because I don't find it motivating. A lot of the content I see just makes me feel bad about my body, makes me feel bad about my performance, because that's kind of what the content is there to do. It's there to make you feel like, oh, I'm not quite doing it on my own. I need to reach out to this professional for help, right? So I don't follow that many coaches, as I said. And yeah, the amount of times people ask me questions about these people, and I'm like, I have no idea. I just have no idea what's going on, and I'm happier and healthier for it, right? As I mentioned, like I like to push myself. I do Ironman events. I lift weights very regularly. Like I like to push my body and challenge it, but now I do it in a way that is on my terms and makes me genuinely feel good rather than because someone else is telling me that I have to.
I think it's really a powerful reminder that social media doesn't have to be a comparison trap that you fall into every single time you start scrolling on social
Mhm.
media. You can curate it to actually inspire you, but not in a your body is the problem kind of way, but in a your body is not the problem. Your body's on your team. How can you have fun with what your body can already do? So I think that's
So
really
true.
cool
Hmm.
that you really purposefully take that time to curate your social media and that other people can be like, "Do you know this person?" You're like, "Who?" It's like, I think that's really
Honestly,
cool.
it's so funny. Yeah, all these people that apparently are very well known. I don't go to many like big fitness events because I don't want to see people strutting around in stringer vests. You know, I feel like the large majority of the fitness industry is just there to make us feel bad about ourselves, and that's it, unfortunately. So, yeah, I feel like I'm doing it my way, but I think it works, you know, and I'm here to promote that message of balance and kind of sensibleness. That's a word, right? Yeah. Any way
Definitely.
that, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Any way that we can kind of make fitness a bit more welcoming and accepting of everybody, like that's my goal, right?
Love it. We need more of you, so thank you for sharing everything that you do. Something I've seen you share multiple times on your social media is how focusing on your mental health can help improve your physical results. Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, it's something that unfortunately gets left out massively from the conversation, and I truly believe that if you put mental health first in everything that you do, then you're going to win in the long run. I don't think you should ever choose an exercise route or a nutrition route that negatively impacts your mental health. Like as soon as you do, you're just going to fail. Like that's it. You will fail. So off the bat, you just have to choose a path that feels right for you. And a lot of the time that can be quite difficult for people because we don't really know what works and what doesn't. We're constantly told you've got to go keto, you've got to do fasting, you've got to lift weights this amount of times. Like we're told that there is a recipe for success, and there just isn't. So truly, we all need to find our own path when it comes to exercise and nutrition. I know it sounds all a bit woo woo and a bit happy clappy saying that, but it's so true, right? There is no one way that all of us should eat or all of us should exercise for long lasting health or happiness. Like there just isn't. So the quicker we can kind of champion this message that kind of there isn't a way to do this that's right, like just got to find the way that works for you and makes you feel good mentally and physically, and that's the way that you're going to win. And it's a very very hard message to sell. Try
Yeah.
package that up and sell it as a personal training service. It's so difficult. I could make a lot more money if I started selling utter nonsense, but we're doing it the right way. Like this is the message that people really need to hear.
I think it's also remembering that the things, if it's not good for your mental health, how is it really good for your physical health?
Hmm.
It's not. And that's also one of the things that I like to do and I guess just like think of when it comes to what I choose to eat is how can I eat the things that make me feel good mentally and physically? And because it's like I used to always choose the food that was, oh, it's really physically good for me. It tastes like shit though. And it's like
Yeah.
I would choose that, or I'd be on the other extreme of, oh, it tastes so freaking good. And there's not a lot of nutritional value. It's like, how can I find the things that bring both of those together? And the same thing goes for your exercise.
It's so true, right? We always kind of you'll see all these newspaper reports of the healthiest way to eat, the Mediterranean diet, and they'll start picking apart the specific things that we have to eat without kind of looking at the bigger picture of kind of the way that these cultures and communities eat, right? They go out and enjoy food together. They eat foods that people would frown upon in the fitness industry and say that's not very healthy. Why the hell are you eating that? But because it tastes great and I love going out with my friends to eat it, you know, like that is part of a healthy diet. A healthy diet is not just macros and calories and whatever else we're constantly told it should be. It's all about foods that you enjoy and on paper don't look very healthy. They're not very nutrient dense, but they make you feel awesome. Like I have some sort of treat or unhealthy food in air quotation marks every single day, but like 80-90% of my diet is really healthy and nourishing, you know, like it's all about balance and it doesn't have to be as complicated as people make it out to be.
That leads me perfectly into my next question, which is how do you recommend someone move away from the all in, all out, like perfectionist mentality when it comes to nutrition and exercise?
It's very difficult. I appreciate that. I know when people kind of come from a very mainstream fitness approach and they start hearing the messages that I'm preaching, I'll get I'll get a lot of angry coaches being like, "What are you doing? You're just encouraging people to be obese," or whatever other nonsense they throw at me. And it's so difficult to make that shift and to know what you should be doing in the long run. In terms of exercise, if we start there, if you can have some form of strength training in your exercise routine, that's awesome. Like the benefits of strength training are huge. However, it doesn't really matter what you do. Like as long as there is a form of movement that you enjoy, that is going to keep you exercising for the longest period of time. So that is the thing that you should focus on. It could be the most unproductive form of exercise ever, but if it keeps you coming back for more, then like honestly that is the thing that you should prioritize. And then when it comes to nutrition, I always kind of go for this add don't restrict approach, and it is an absolute game changer when people start focusing on that, because usually when we go for healthy, once again in air quotation marks, nutrition advice, we're constantly told like, right, cut this out of your diet, don't eat this, don't eat that. Whereas if you can focus on adding things into your diet that are going to improve it, naturally everything else just falls into place. That's where people should start. So just analyze your diet. You can sit down and write it down on a piece of paper. You can write it in note section of your phone or whatever. Just kind of for a few days, just write down vaguely what you're eating and have a look and be like, right, where on this food diary can I improve? Is my water intake lacking? Could I maybe do with a little bit more protein to help me feel a bit more full and help me recover after exercise a bit better? Like vegetable intake, is that a little bit low? Like if you start just throwing things into your diet rather than coming at it from a restriction and cutting out mindset, automatically it's such a positive experience and you're going to make such better, longer lasting changes to your nutrition. So that's a very kind of wishy-washy way of me kind of trying to give advice for people starting off, but honestly, like if you start there, you're off to a really, really, really good start.
One thing that I was thinking about was also how the scale and weighing ourselves can lead to more of a all in, all out, because it's like we'll step on the scale and it's like, oh, well, it went up. I'm just gonna like have a free for all for today kind of thing. So I'm kind of curious to hear what are your opinions on the scale?
They are massively overused and underused. I don't know. It's they have their positives and they have their negatives. I would just say with every nutrition approach or fitness approach or whatever it is, you need to assess what feels right for you. If you've perhaps come from a background of consistent dieting where the scale has been something that you've always really focused on and that's been your barometer of success, I would say try and move away from it completely, because it's clearly not bringing you any joy, or it's not going to be a helpful tool in your journey. However, if you can look at the scales as just a really interesting marker of what's going on, then okay, you might use it. Like personally, I use the scales mainly because I kind of am quite intrigued with how my body reacts to different foods that I eat or different exercise that I do or how my hydration is. And when you look at it like that, it becomes this kind of, oh yeah, it's a helpful tool. I'll use it and not really think about it too much. But because so many things influence the scale weight, it can just be a really frustrating tool that people use. Like the amount of sleep you have, the amount of water you've drunk, the amount of sodium you've eaten, how much kind of salt on your food, carbohydrate intake, you're storing a bit more glycogen than normal in your muscles, so you're storing water with it. Like all these different things. Have you been to the toilet? Menstrual cycle, like what part of your cycle you're at, because your weight is going to fluctuate because of that. And I think once people really realize how much influences the number, we stop putting too much of an emphasis on it. There's some clients of mine who have maybe come from a slightly more disordered background who we don't go anywhere near the scale because I just know it's not going to be helpful. I've had the clients who come at it with a slightly healthier approach to food and exercise, and we do occasionally use it just to kind of keep an eye on things and see what's happening. But as I said, like you just need to analyze every tool that you're thinking of using and think, right, does this sit right with me and is it going to help? Or is it just going to make me feel bad about myself? And if it is, then you don't have to use anything. So just dismiss it.
I find it really interesting because I have noticed that it kind of seems that males and females can have a completely different relationship with the scale. Whereas I've noticed a lot more of women will see the number and make it mean something negative about themselves, no matter what the number says. Even if it's gone down, it's something negative.
Hmm.
Whereas my husband, he weighed himself recently and hadn't weighed himself in 2 years, and the scale had gone up. But we were talking about it because when I have ever stepped on the scale, it's, oh, I'm thinking about the fat gain. He steps on the scale and he's thinking about the muscle gain. And I'm like, how is that the first thing you think about? Like, what?
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? I'm not going to kind of downplay the pressures that men have, because we certainly have them, of ways that we are told we're supposed to look, and how we're supposed to portray ourselves. But women in general have had a much harder deal with it. Like, the amount of kind of horrific advertising of whether it's weight loss or exercise activities has always just been very female targeted. So naturally, unfortunately, should I say, that women do tend to find, I tend to find there's more of a lot more of the women I work with, we step away from the scales completely because of that reason. Like, they've had a long history of dieting, and trying to lose weight for a significant period of time, and the scale has always been that thing that's caused them to, I don't know if relapse kind of sounds like quite an extreme word, but kind of get into a healthy eating or exercising regime, and then they'll weigh themselves and think, oh, the scale's not gone down, everything's gone wrong. So they've kind of thrown in the towel. Whereas um, it's the most frustrating thing in the world, because they might have been exercising really well, they're eating really healthy foods and feeling really good about themselves. They step on the scale, the weight's not gone down, therefore they think they failed. And I think in those instances, it's just step away from it, because it's just not helpful at all. But yeah, it's the same actually. It's funny you mentioned that in terms of men, and just automatically thinking about muscle mass, because that's what I always think about as well. I'm like, oh, it's gone up. Yes, I've probably gained a little bit more muscle. It's usually my first thought. So yeah, maybe I just need to kind of check my privilege on that one.
I mean, even when I had a fit scale, so I also have not weighed myself since July 2021. But I
So
had a
2 years, cool.
fit
Okay.
I had a fit scale back then because I was like, oh, well, I'm seeing more numbers, so it's better. But even
Hmm.
then, I was still always just focused on the one number, which was, is it going up or down? And I think part of that was because I didn't fully understand how to look and understand the other
Hmm.
numbers.
Yeah, it's true. And also just the inaccuracy of those scales as well. I always, when I used to, I've recently built a home gym. I'm very fortunate that I was able to build one in my garage. So I'm not going to the kind of the local gym to where I live anymore. But the leg extension machine was always near one of those body max things, or whatever they call them, where they test like kind of body fat, muscle mass, hydration levels. And I'd always make a point of, every time on the leg extension, putting on my Instagram story, like, please stop using this piece of kit in the gym, because they are so inaccurate. And I mean, once again, if you want to use it and you're doing it kind of the exact same time of the day, you've kind of drunk the same amount of water, you've eaten the same amount of food, or you've tried to keep all these variables the same, then maybe they might be accurate in tracking trends. But so many people, once again, put all the emphasis of, am I making progress? Because this machine is telling me that I'm not, so therefore I must be failing. So anyone listening who's thinking of using those machines in the gym or at home on the scales that you stand on, it tells you body fat, it's just not accurate at all. So please stop using it.
If someone does want to use the scale, do you have a recommendation as to whether or not they use it daily, weekly, or monthly, or is it just kind of dependent on the person and their mindset?
I think it depends on the person and the mindset. I'm always, so as I mentioned, there's some clients who I work with who want to lose weight, like that's their focus. I always tell them not to step on the scale regularly at all. And I usually say kind of every couple of weeks or so. I always like to make it really infrequent check-in, so they can see whether things are trending in the direction that they want, but it's not becoming kind of this strong emphasis of this number has to drop every time. But then I've worked with other clients who've said that they want to step on the scale every day, and I don't want to kind of tell them that they're wrong, or that I don't think their approach is right. But I just feel the more frequently you do it, the more you're going to start obsessing over the number, is my opinion there. So I would always encourage people to not use them very often at all. Personally, I will step on when I go through kind of start doing triathlon training a bit more regularly. I want to make sure that my weight isn't dropping too much. I want to make sure that I'm eating enough. So therefore, I'll jump on like every 2 to 3 weeks, just to be like, okay, am I eating enough? Okay, no, I'm not. I need to increase my food intake. So once again, just using it as a tool, a very kind of general tool that you don't put too much emphasis on, and it can be okay.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Mhm.
How do you recommend someone begin focusing on improving their health without considering what they weigh?
Ooh. Performance markers are always the best thing. So as I mentioned, like some of the clients I work with, weight loss is their goal. I try and shift away from this as much as I physically can. I will always focus on performance goals. So I always make that the emphasis of everything I'm doing. And if there's anything else they want to check, then they can. So let's say that you are going into the gym and doing gym workouts. Keeping a log of your workouts is unbelievably important. I feel like so many people go into the gym without a plan or without kind of monitoring what they're doing, and they kind of float between workouts because you will never remember what you did last time. You can tell yourself that you will, but you won't. You'll go and you'll go, I think I did 24s last time, so maybe try 26, but you actually did 28s when you did the workout, so therefore you've regressed. So keep a little exercise log and track the amount of weight you're lifting. That can be quite a fun way to do it because it comes all about you trying to push yourself and get stronger, and that's kind of quite a positive thing, right? If you like running, you can track distances, you can track times, but then once again, there's too many caveats to this. This is very difficult because once again, if you kind of make it all about numbers, then it becomes really unenjoyable. So it's all about assessing those tools that you think are right. But I always feel like performance goals are the way to go, really, for most people. Think about kind of pushing yourself, getting stronger, maybe getting faster, running a little bit further, or and I think you can make that a much more positive experience rather than is my weight dropping? Because it's just really sad. Like it's a really sad focus, unfortunately.
And I mean, if you are moving away from weight loss being your main goal, then all of these other markers can be way more exciting to look at than
Mm.
going on the scale, especially when you can recognize if the scale doesn't actually make you feel good when you step on it, but seeing these progress markers of like, oh yeah, I am lifting heavier, or I ran faster, or I ran further is like that's pretty cool and that's a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, it's so much more fun, isn't it? It's so much more fun. The reason I started doing triathlon training actually was because I started to just feel really negatively about the emphasis of building muscle, and that's what strength training was to me for so many years. So this was me trying to escape that and try and focus on something that previously I thought was really bad for me because I'm not going to build as much muscle. And I, ever since doing that and focusing on the way that my body feels and how it's performing, it just exercise is so much more fun. Like I go out really enjoying my workouts because I can see like, oh, my resting heart rate's got better. I'm improving my lung capacity, whatever. Like there's so many things that you can look at that make it a really fun, enjoyable experience. And yeah, if people can start doing that a lot more, then there'll be so much more longevity of exercise.
So when you do have a client that wants to solely lose weight and they want to use the scale and everything, you said that you don't want to say that they're wrong. They can't have those goals. How do you gently, I guess, guide them towards those performance markers and seeing the weight loss as like a byproduct?
It's very difficult, and it completely depends on the client that you're working with. I think it's just you have to be really honest off the bat. I think I'm fortunate that a lot of people that come to work with me have followed me through social media, so they kind of know my ethos and what I want to prioritize. So that helps. But a lot of the time, it's a slow process. It's kind of slowly trying to transition away from that being the emphasis. And I like to think that the way that I program people's workouts and the way we start focusing on these fun, enjoyable things, naturally people tend to shift away from that too. Um, there's a lot of coaches within the body positivity space, body neutrality space, health at every size space, whatever you kind of bracket you want to put people in, um, that will refuse to work with weight loss and will criticize people for wanting to lose weight. And I just think that becomes a really negative thing. And I don't think it's helpful in the long run. And I know that there's probably a few people listening to this that will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I truly feel like if we can take the people that really need us the most because they're stuck in this cycle of like weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. That's all I want to focus on. If we can show people that, oh, actually, this can actually be a really fun thing that I'm going to focus on, like that's when the magic happens. And as I said, it's just a really slow progress with some people. Others, it works a little bit quicker, but usually it's like honesty at the start, saying that's fine, you can focus on that, that's cool, but we're also going to focus on these things. So we kind of put them on par, and then over time, hopefully, the performance things start to outlive and become a little bit stronger to the weight loss. Hopefully,
I definitely I think a lot of people believe that I'm anti-weight loss because of everything that I share, but
yeah, I get that as well. Yeah,
I'm not anti-weight loss. I would prefer and hope for people to set other goals like reducing your stress and improving your sleep and improving your strength and things like that, and realizing that weight loss can be a byproduct of it. Because
Mhm.
I think, at least from the people that I've spoken to, we set the weight loss goal and then we hit it and then we set another one and another one and another one because we haven't changed our mindset. So for me, it's more so I kind of like what you were saying, like improve your mental health, and that will improve your physical health when you show up from a place of loving your body and appreciating it. Then the weight loss is actually sustainable and healthy and fun. Whereas if you're just setting that goal, but again, not anti the weight loss, and it's just how can you go about it in a fun and healthy way?
it's so true. As I mentioned, I get put in that bracket as well. I'll kind of get tagged on stories of kind of like anti-diet or anti-weight loss or whatever. And I don't like to sit in any camp. I like to annoy everyone in the fitness industry and not stand with anyone. I just like getting really angry messages from people telling me that I'm doing things wrong. And I don't, yeah, I don't think it's helpful being that militant in any direction, actually. And I like to think that kind of sitting in the messy middle ground, even though you don't make as many friends, I think it's the right way to do it. Like society tells us we have to look a certain way. So who am I going to I'm not going to be the person that's going to criticize someone for kind of bowing down to that and making their life a little bit easier, right? So yeah, I'm all for it. If people want to lose weight, that's cool. That's your thing. Like I'm all for it. Body autonomy and your body, your rules, right? That's what it should be. However, if I'm working with you, I'm going to put the emphasis in the right place, and then maybe that will be the byproduct of it.
I love that. Is there anything that you really want the listener to know who is maybe struggling with their relationship with exercise and their body, and words of advice or inspiration, I guess, for them?
Yeah, it will never be perfect, I think, is probably the biggest message that I want to get out there. Like, I am someone that is preaching this message. I work in the fitness space and I still succumb to the crap that comes along with that, right? There's days that I don't like the way that my body looks. There's days that I hate exercising and I don't want to eat healthy, Like, I don't think anyone is ever going to get to a point where they'll be like, wow, I'm fixed. Like, this is everything's great. It's just never going to be like that. And I think if you remove the pressure of everything having to be perfect, it all becomes a lot easier. So that's kind of the message that I always like to champion is, yeah, things will never be perfect. And that's kind of okay too, right? Like, if 50, 60, 70% of the time it's pretty good, then you're doing well, right? And it's amazing how much flexibility you can have and still make really good progress. For example, I'm currently on holiday in the Netherlands. We're visiting family out here for 2 weeks. I've not exercised in, what day are we today? Friday, in like a week. My diet has been pretty crappy since I got here. They love sweet food in the Netherlands. It's amazing. Like, they put chocolate sprinkles on toast for breakfast. Amazing. So I've eaten just like, my diet has not been nutrient dense at all. Like, it's been a lot of like junk processed food, and that's fine. Like, I know as soon as I get home, I'm gonna get back into my normal exercise routine. I'm gonna start eating the normal foods that I do. Like, it's balance, and that's what it should be. If you're having this kind of rigid rules that you're always having to stick to, it's just never going to last. So yeah, just take it a little bit easier on yourself is probably the message that I want to champion here.
Amazing. And I think that's the other benefit to prioritizing fun in your workouts is I feel like that's part of the reason why when you get back from your vacation, you're gonna be like, oh, I'm excited to do this. It
Mhm.
doesn't feel like a punishment anymore.
Yeah, so true. Like, I've got my running stuff in here with me. I just haven't felt like it, if I'm honest. So, and I think once you get to that point, I don't know, it just feels so freeing. Like, I think back to my previous self 10 years ago when I first started personal training, the thought of taking like a week or 2 weeks off exercise would have terrified me. I'd think like all my muscle mass is going to vanish and everything's been a waste of time, right? And then I'll just throw in the towel and never do it. Whereas now I can easily have kind of weeks off and it's fine because I know that you can have so much flexibility and still make progress. So yeah, once again, be kind to yourself. It's all fine.
Yes. And if this is possible for us, it's possible for you listening too. You're not the exception.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Thank you so much for everything you have shared so far. Absolutely love everything and appreciate you taking time out of your vacation to chat with us. I do have two questions that I ask all of my guests. And the first one is, what do you wish you could go back and tell younger Michael?
That those people are taking steroids. Please stop using them for motivation. That would that would be the one thing that I would tell myself is yeah, that those images that you're seeing in magazines are not motivating. They're actually just completely ruining your mental health. And you will not win. So I'll say that.
Very important message. Very good.
Hmm.
The second question is, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out learning to love their body more?
Oh, why is that the most difficult question? That should be the easiest one, right? I would say let's keep it social media related because that tends to be where I spend a lot of my time at the moment. I've done posts on this before, but curate your social media feed. So many people will follow fitness accounts and they'll all look exactly the same, right? It's kind of like slim white folk that are really lean, big muscles. Like this is what fitness needs to look like. Curate your social feed and put so much more body diversity on there. Okay, we want people of all sizes doing health and fitness, all cultural backgrounds doing different types of fitness. And it is amazing how much better you feel about yourself when you're seeing a variety of humans just absolutely owning their health and fitness. That's when it starts becoming really motivating rather than slim white folk. This is what I have to look like to be healthy, because it's not. It doesn't have to be like that. So that would be my kind of one takeaway there.
Love it. Such good advice. So, how can someone get in touch with you, start working with you, find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, sure. So, as you mentioned at the start, I do my own fitness podcast called How to Fitness with my co host, Kate Lyman. She's a nutritionist she's from the US, but she's based in Mexico. So, you can listen to our stuff there. Or if you go to my Instagram, it's probably the best place to find me. And that's just my full name, Michael Ulloa PT. And that's on Instagram, Twitter, X. Is anyone using that anymore? Nah, it's on the way out. Threads, TikTok, whatever. You can find me on there. And my website as well is just michaelujoa.com. So any of those?
Awesome. I will also be sure to link all of those in the show notes. But again, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us today. And well, it's just a glimpse of the knowledge. So make sure you follow him on Instagram and follow his podcast. But yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And just remember that your body is not the problem.